Hello and welcome back to the Creative Boom podcast. I'm your host, Katie Cowan, and I'm also the founder of Creative Boom, a platform which I started in 2009 to support the creative community. This is season 2 of our podcast, and I'm kicking things straight off with somebody who you will know as an award-winning graphic designer and artist, but somebody who unexpectedly became one of my friends last year during the pandemic. Sarah Boris has worked for some of the world's leading publishing houses and art organisations, including Fade and Press, the Photographers Gallery, Tate and Barbican. She notably crafted the fresh identity for the Institute of Contemporary Arts back in 2010, amongst many other impressive pieces of work. But before we get into our conversation with Sarah, which is really interesting because we get to hear her experiences of 2020 and the lessons she learned, let me just say that this podcast has been sponsored by Shillington, the original graphic design bootcamp. Since 1997, their innovative approach to education has helped students achieve award-winning portfolios and land incredible jobs in a seriously short amount of time in their campuses in New York, London, Manchester, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and now online. But I'll talk more about them later. Let's first see our chat, or hear our chat, with Sarah from earlier this month. Hi Sarah, welcome to the Creative Boom podcast season 2. You are my first guest. I'm very honoured.
Hello Katie, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm honoured too.
I know, it's lovely to see your face. You still look lovely and slim. I've got lockdown pounds.
Oh, I can't see that.
Oh, you're too nice. You're too nice. But we're in 2021. We kind of thought it was going to be, okay, everything's sorted now. We can get back to normal. But we've come back. We've all had 2 weeks off. And things are quite gloomy. But you're smiling your head off. And you actually were the most surprising thing that happened in 2020. Because when I was in one of my darkest moments, and I think we all had those moments, didn't we? You turned out to be this surprise friend that I sort of gained in those sort of dark moments. I mean, we went through quite a lot together, didn't we, last year?
Yeah, true. I mean, it's surprising. I think that's part of the magic of social media. That's why I stay on it. But yeah, no, that's why I'm smiling as well, because I don't know, you're super nice. So it's just also, I think it's not that easy to meet people in the industry that you can really fully confide in and, where you feel in a really safe space. And I think that was a mutual feeling we both got. It was sort of like, it was definitely one of the magic things of 2020. I think it was just amazing to be able to make connections without meeting people in person. And I feel it's weird because I feel like we've known each other for a long time.
It's really strange. I feel like we must have been friends in another life or something. Not that I believe that stuff.
Maybe we were sisters.
Maybe. You know what? Maybe. Because it was just like instant, just got each other. And it's very rare that you come across people like that in your life. And I think, I'm not going to get too soppy.
I could get emotional, so beware.
Well, I can get emotional. If you've listened to any of these other podcasts, I can get very emotional, and I am an emotional person. It's, I'm quite proud in saying that I've got a big heart. But we just kind of hit it off straight away. And I think when you find somebody like that in your life, you have to hold on to them. So you're not going to get rid of me easily, Sarah Boris.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope you don't disappear on me.
I will not. But you do realise you're my third Sarah friend, and I have to call all of my Sarahs by their full names, which is hilarious. It's like an ongoing joke with the other 2 Sarahs. So you've got competition.
Oh no, who are the other 2? Are they also creatives or?
Well, sort of. I will introduce you to them one day, and it'll be like the universe explodes.
I tend to get along well with other Sarahs. I have quite a lot of Sarah friends as well, but I'm not exclusive with Sarahs.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that it's hard to find people to sort of confide in and feel that you can trust them, especially in the design industry, which can feel a little bit cutthroat sometimes, can't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think the industry has evolved definitely since I started working in 2005, and I think people are a lot more open and human than what I felt 15 years ago. But I also don't know. It could also be me that has evolved, and that is more willing to open up. So I think, it's quite a nice moment to be in 15 years later.
Yeah,
because you've got this journey which helps you reflect on things and helps you be, I guess, also more content with where you are. I think when you start out, you're just sort of in this thing where you have all these models of what the industry is and how it should be and how you should be in that industry. And I've realized that all those things I thought 15 years ago were actually not exclusive and not also the full picture. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot has changed in 15 years. And I forget, because you look so youthful, that, there was no, just for the purpose of our listeners, Sarah just sort of like raised her hands up and went, rah!
Like a bat.
Like a bat. I can't remember what I was saying now. You just make me laugh.
Oh, you said I was looking very youthful, which you can repeat.
You are. Yes, you are. And so, well, I'm doing okay. Although I think, the stresses of 2020, I think I finally looked in the mirror the other day and went, oh my God, Katie Cowan, you are getting old.
No, you're not. I think we're only at the beginning of our lives. And I think also that's the age thing is really interesting, I think, as well, because I actually feel, really young. And I 10 years ago, I had a lot of people in their 40s telling me, oh, I've hit a really hard point in my career and it feels a bit like work is fading out. And, and it was almost this picture, like when you reach, your mid 30s, your 40s, it's like the end of a path. And actually, I feel like it's only the beginning. And I would definitely urge anyone feeling that to look in a different way. Again, it's an image you're sold that is wrong.
Do you ever feel like with this younger crowd coming up beneath us, do you ever feel that, you have to sort of push on constantly?
Well, I actually feel that we're all complementary. I have an experience that they don't have, and I hope a bit of wisdom that I can share and industry insights, and things like that. But I think definitely the young crowds, the sort of younger generation coming out is just so versatile, and they, handle so many softwares, so many technical things. And there was, I'm sort of curious of lots of different platforms and sort of, doing animation and stuff, but it's sort of, not in me to start juggling 20 different sort of, platforms. And I think I've reached a moment where I'm really comfortable also with that and thinking, actually, we're complementary and we can collaborate with that generation. It's not, for me, it's not so much about the competition, but it's about the collaboration and how we come together collectively to work together rather than against each other.
That's a great sentiment. And I think also it's about realizing that actually, yes, we have got all this experience, and it's keeping the eyes on the prize, isn't it? Having that focus. We've got all this experience in one area. There's a lot of value in that, especially if you become known for it. And that can sort of, hold your reputation well.
Yeah, I hope so. I definitely also had this, like last year was really strange because a lot of work dropped off. And so you have a lot of moments of doubt and sort of, am I still valid? Do people still want to work with me? What's going on? Obviously, there's a pandemic and there's Brexit and there's a whole lot of other things. And it's sort of also taking a step back in that moment and sort of looking at where you're at and what you're doing, and if you're content with that and what you could push further. And I think there's obviously also a lot of anxiety seeing other people's output. And I think one thing that I've done is actually when I have that anxiety creeping up is to actually refocus on what it is that I want to do, who that I want to work with, who I want to connect with, what I want to learn. Also, there's so many things I still want to learn, and things I want to do. And, you know, whether it's in lockdown or not, I think, you know, within the confines of our homes as well, luckily I have books, I have internet that sometimes works.
Yeah, sometimes.
and I think I still have, a lot of things to learn and study, and also, you know, connections to be made. So
that's a great positive mindset. I think many of us have had to make that adjustment, because when it all kicked off last March, was it? The shock and the horror of the reality we were facing. It was crazy. I remember having conversations with my husband, Tom, he also works for himself. He's a software developer. And we just went through everything and we checked, are we going to be okay? And as it turned out, we were. And we ended up doing better than we anticipated, and worked really, really hard and burnt ourselves out. Yeah, I think we've done really well. Was that like, wow. But you know, we felt guilty because other people were really suffering, weren't they?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think in a way you shouldn't feel guilty, because I also feel, you know, it's a difficult time, and it's almost, it's reassuring to know that some people are doing well. And I think if everyone was doing, you know, really badly, I think it would be a sign that we're really doomed, and that it's, you know, it's sort of, and I think for me to see people doing well is sort of giving also hope that things aren't completely stuck, and that things can keep happening, and people are keen also to make things happen still. And I think, also it's just been amazing to have platforms like Creative Boom that are so supportive and that, you know, keep nurturing people. And again, I think it's really important to have this idea of nurturing one another and having positive, healthy platforms that show a wide spectrum of work.
Definitely. And, you know, that's what we've always tried to do, just support people no matter where they are in their career. And I feel like last year was just this reminder of why we exist and why we started in the first place. And, you know, we started after the global recession of 2008. And back then there were so many people struggling. And so last March and April just felt very similar, however, just completely on another scale. So it was, I felt like I had a duty to step up and do more. And we started a chat room, and I would just spend, do you remember?
How was the chat room?
It worked really well. And it was very old school. So it was like, you know, quite nice to go back to a traditional chat room, message board. And the community that came out of that, albeit small, was really wonderful. And I made some really lovely friends that I had a couple of emails after Christmas from some just wishing me a happy new year and thanking me again for this chat room that, you know, my husband Tom set up in, you know, a couple of hours or whatever. It started off really well. There were loads of people that joined. I think we had about 1,800 people sign up. But I think when people realised that things weren't as dire, it started to sort of, you know, it served its purpose over a couple of months, and then people started to peter off, and it was quite interesting. It was quite an interesting little thing that we did last year. But so what else did you sort of experience? It sounds like you really slowed down, and given that you are so successful and have had such an amazing career, I can imagine you've been running on a treadmill for a very long time. So I suppose in a strange way, it was quite nice for you to just do that, take a step back.
Yeah, I did feel definitely that I had been racing for the last couple of years, and I think, you know, it was purely from my own, you know, responsibility and desire to do a lot of things. And I think more and more I had aspirations that were different, you know, and it's normal, like things shift, and there was also a part of me that wanted to spend more time doing my artworks, screen printing, also publishing my own books, you know, and also mainly experimenting more. And I think, I started that when I left my full-time job at a publisher, Phaidon, in 2015. And that was, it was triggered by an opportunity to experiment and sort of stage my practice within an exhibition space. And I think when I think back at that, a lot of people said, oh, well, you took a risk by doing that. But I didn't see it really as a risk. I saw it as an opportunity, and as a platform for expression. And I think that's really what's happened in the 5 years since, I guess now we're nearing 6 years that I left my full-time job and sort of set up my own practice. And for me, it's just been a journey of constant discovery. And I guess also slowing down, doing, traveling more, spending more time with family pre-pandemic, and really catching up with things that I love, but also people that I love. And, sort of finding a more, I guess, human way of working, and less sort of
definitely
machine productivity.
Yeah, because we're not machines, are we? And I think I don't think I ever really got over that first sort of recession when I lost all my clients overnight, bar one, back in 2008, 2009, which is why I had all that spare time to do something like Creative Boom. But I've been running ever since. It's just a kind of, it's an awful word, hustle. I hate the word. I really don't
like it either. It's like hustle and side project are really, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been guilty of pushing that on Creative Boom a few times over the years, but I suppose only because I've seen myself the benefit of having side projects and pushing ahead. But I think in the kind of, in the warmth and the kind of well-meaning of it all, we all kind of fell for it a bit too much and probably pushed ourselves too hard. And in some cases, probably burnt ourselves out. Last year for many, many people in the creative industries was a chance to just step back and go, okay, this is happening. What can I do positively whilst I've got this extra time?
Yeah. Again, with those things, sort of, a lot of people were like, oh, you're going to take this time to do your side project and, and do these books you've been wanting to do. And I sort of have from March to December to do all these things, and I've not completed one. And it wasn't even because I didn't have time, because finally I had time. But I just felt like doing other things and just, kind of reading, catching up with people. The walks became really important. Sort of the outside time became really precious. And I think it's almost a sort of awakening to things that have been right in front of you for all these years, and that you've sort of, it's not that you didn't value them, it's just you didn't spend time with them. And I think we have amazing access to culture. We've got sort of, there are no borders online, so we can speak with people from across the oceans, and that's amazing. And we can access each other's cultures more easily and learn from each other. And I think these are really the things that drive me at the moment. And to sort of, I definitely have some moments where I feel really low and really like, okay, what's next? What's going to happen? Is work, is there going to be enough
all completely
work?
Normal.
And, how do we navigate this? And, I even had a moment where I thought, is it worth making these side projects? Because I almost feel like it's quite a strange time to be flogging things to people, like flogging artworks and books. And I have, I've always loved my sort of non-commissioned work, in the sense that I've never felt pressure to earn a living with those. And now that's shifted a little bit, because I've had less commissions due to the pandemic. And I've sort of started seeing if I could make more of a living of my artworks and books and things like that. And suddenly it's putting a different type of pressure on these. And so I'm sort of assessing how that's working for me at the moment and where I want to take this. But it's definitely, you know, there's another amazing thing that happened to me last year, which, you know, feels really like, I don't know. I also feel like it's an immense chance to have had that, but I've had printmakers approaching me and sort of, you know, offering to collaborate and to make my artworks come to life through amazing screen printing or letterpress techniques. And so I've been, you know, working with people like Harvey Lloyd's Screens, the amazing Steve and Tracy, that are just the most amazing, sort of friendly and skilled screen printers I've met. And there's also been Damn Fine Print with Kim Willoughby, that is just also amazing at nurturing the print community and bringing people together. And also because suddenly I had the time to make these and to, you know, think about how, and actually push them a little bit further out. Usually I don't even communicate about those prints that I make because there's no pressure to sell. Yeah. And having also another collaboration, I had New North Press that are based in London, in Old Street, get in touch, and it's run by Richard and Graham. And, you know, I went there and I felt so good. And it also made me think, you know, what do I like about the graphic design industry? And I actually feel so much more at home in the print making environment. And it made me think a lot about that and how we make each other feel in different industries. And why is it that the printmaking industry is so warm and friendly? And why is it that sometimes the graphic design industry puts on this very sort of almost clinical, you know, facade. And so then, you know, I thought, is it me? Have I been hanging out in the wrong spaces or have I been, you know, with the wrong people? And I mean, I've also met amazing people in the graphic design industry, but I just felt that in the space of my sort of printmaking journey since I left my full-time job, I've just had this really amazing connections, and not one person has ever made me feel bad, and everyone has made me feel extremely welcome. And it's suddenly it's a sort of fresh outlook that you can be whoever you want to be, and there are no codes or labels. And I've really loved that. So, and just seeing printed work there's a commitment to the printed matter, and it's something that you have to weigh and balance, and you get it out there, and it's sort of, you know, I think there's something quite fleeting with the digital, and there's obviously there's a lot of printmakers, but I think there's a lot of noise with the digital, which I love as well, the digital arena. But
nah, screw the digital; they can get lost.
but yeah, and I think for me, just being able to make those things during lockdown, and so I went to New North Press in between lockdowns, and just getting my hands dirty and wearing an apron, which I never wear aprons normally.
Wearing an apron,
so I wore this amazing apron, and being in touch with these people, and just standing there in their space and being welcome, and sort of making me think like, actually, this is where I feel really, really good and really happy and really thriving. And so it's made me think a little bit about how, in some ways, thanks to the pandemic, it's made me shift a little bit my practice, because I've had more time to spend on my artistic practice. And how maybe I should really make more space for it in the years to come. And obviously that is a risk, but I think until you make space for things, there's you don't know how they're going to work out. And I think that's what happened when I left the full-time job. And again, with you, with Creative Boom, is something happens, an immense crisis, and suddenly something beautiful is born out of it. So
what a joyful, positive mindset. You know, this is great. Anybody who's listening to this, who's a graphic designer and an admirer of you and your work, and I'm sure there are many, myself included, But it's really reassuring to hear somebody with so much experience, who's had so much success, to say these things. You know, you have your moments of self-doubt, and you've kind of, you know, had struggles, and actually last year you didn't have the mind space or the energy, apologies if I'm putting words into your mouth, to push on and do those books and do those other side projects. That awful word again. But it's great. It's really encouraging. And, you know, in a sense, I think you're right. Sometimes we have to just take a step back and have the opportunity to explore. However, it's not easy when we're all sort of pushing on and trying to make a living, especially when the industry is so competitive. And we can, and again, you pick up a really interesting point there about how we make these assumptions about what we think people expect of us, and it's all in our head. And I think social media has played a part of that as well. We kind of like we kind of sometimes get lost in that, and it's good to have, and I'm not saying it's good to have a pandemic and that people are dying. My point is it's good to have these shake-ups where we're kind of forced to sort of suddenly be in that risky zone where we haven't got work coming in, or it's you know, forcing us to change and have a deep look at what our lives are and where we want to go and and who we want to be. It's you know, the silver lining, I suppose.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think again, I went through this moment last year of thinking, okay, work is getting really low, and you know, I need to prepare, I need to find more work, I need to, you know, I had all these things I was thinking I need to do. I need to do a proper website. I need to redo my portfolio. I need to kind of like prepare a really active pitch. I need to get like press. I need to, you know, get myself out there. And then I thought, actually, you know, what do I need to live at the moment? And how can I, you know, make that living?
We're taking a short break from our chat with Sarah to talk about our sponsor for the season, Shillington, whom without their support, this would not be possible. Since 1997, the original graphic design bootcamp has helped students achieve award-winning portfolios and land incredible jobs in a seriously short amount of time from their 6 campuses around the world. I'm joined now by one of their graduates from Manchester, Ella Dawson. Hello, Ella.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's great to meet you and find out more about your experience with Shillington. I mean, how did that come about?
So prior to Shillington, I actually did an art foundation course at Manchester School of Art, and sort of from there on, I was really keen to get into the industry. And I sort of didn't really want to do another 3 years doing a degree, so I deferred that place. And by chance, I actually heard of Shillington through one of my sister's friends. Went to the info session. I thought, well, this is exactly what I want, and that's kind of what took me there, really.
That's fantastic. And so, did you do the part-time course or the full-time, full whack?
No, I did the 3-month course. So that's full time. So we were in, I think it was 8:30 to 5:30. It's just outside of Piccadilly Gardens, in Manchester. So yeah, I was getting the tram every day because I'm just outside of Manchester. So yeah, no, it was good.
I bet it was, all that hands-on vocational training that you get there, and the ability to create a portfolio that would ultimately help you get a job.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, I put all my credit to Shillington for creating my portfolio, because I think without them, I wouldn't have the sort of support I would have got elsewhere for sort of briefs and things. I think that they sort of need that sort of extra support on, extra bits and bobs to do with certain briefs, whether that's web or whether that's branding, and just gives you a lot more direction as if you're actually in a sort of studio setting.
Definitely. And it gets you ready for the real world, I guess. And so what are you doing now?
So I currently work at a small creative and digital agency just outside of Manchester called Made by Shape. And I'm brand designer there. So I cover everything to do with branding, but we are primarily a digital agency. So also do a lot of web design as well.
That's fantastic. Are you really enjoying it? And would you recommend Shillington to anyone out there listening who's thinking about a career in graphic design?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I really enjoy it where I am. And as I said before, I put that credit to Shillington for actually getting me that job and, getting me that foot in the door for, in the design industry. 100% go for it. If you're thinking about, choose if you're umming or ahhing, 100% go for it. That, it really opens your eyes to everything, and you can find things that you probably wouldn't even realize you like.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ella.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
If you'd like to find out more about Shillington, go to shillingtoneducation.com. Now back to Sarah. So that is great that you've been able to sort of slow down and learn these lessons, and I, on the other hand, speeded up and was working, very long hours and had barely any time to stop and think. But actually, I did realise that once and for all, I wanted Creative Boom to be my sort of passion, my thing that I do for a very long time. And so I kind of worked on my site last year. I did loads of kind of improvements and made lots of changes and hired some new writers, and it was very exciting and super positive.
Yeah, it looks really great, actually.
Oh, thank you. I'm still working on it. I know, but coming from you, that's very flattering. Thank you. But that's the thing, isn't it? I think I was so hard on myself before 2020. My expectations for myself and my ventures were so high. And I think when the pandemic happened, that kind of just went away. And I started to sort of say, well, actually, I can't be perfect. And I can't like be this massive, have these massive successes all the time. Every day is a lesson. Every week is part of our journey. No matter what stage you're at in your business or career, you're always going to have something else that you need to do. And actually, there's joy in that, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I think, we set the bars so high to ourselves. And so during lockdown, for example, I started this project called Artists at Home. And it was a way for me to sort of keep, conversations going and sort of also meet new artists. And I invited each artist to submit free portraits of themselves at home. I was really keen that they would show part of their environment, but also their faces, which wasn't always an easy feat. And a lot of people were actually, quite reserved or quite defensive or sort of like, I've got other things to do. And I sort of maintained that for a couple of, I think it was a month or two. And I had, I think, over 30 artists taking part. And I had loads more that I wanted to invite. And then I just realized that actually, I mean, again, I'm feeling for Creative Boom because I realized how much work it is to, get in touch with people, source the right imagery, make sure the images kind of fit with the project and sort of, but also not frustrate people and be mindful of how much time have spent also making the images. Yeah. So, and I realized also like, every venture that we have is up to our own level of precision and commitment and, our idea of perfection. And I thought actually, this doesn't have to be anything more than it was during these days. And I don't need to continue it if I don't feel like it. And I think it's been interesting because I have also met people that, some that I'm collaborating with today. And for me, it was a very modest project that only happened on social media, but it really opened eyes on, what it takes also to set up a community and to maintain that and to sort of keep it alive. And I thought actually almost at one point, I thought this is taking over too much of my time. And and also people started having expectations and sort of, oh, and why haven't you featured so-and-so and why? And I just felt like actually, I don't have the energy or the mindset to sort of, go into those things. And there's a lot of people that I asked that also never responded and I think that's the reality of it, of this, whatever we do, there's a lot of, there's the background story that people don't see on their surface. And I thought, okay, actually, I've really enjoyed doing this. Now I want to do something else. And so I've sort of gone back to the end of the year looking at, and I thought I'm going to make those books that I've been postponing making. There's one language book actually that I'm preparing. And it's been actually more than a year in the making.
Gosh.
But this is, it's really on it. It is born out of what I felt with Brexit and some of the divisions it's created, and some of the comments I've encountered having a teeny weeny French accent,
just a tad, a petit peu,
just a little bit. Yeah, it's never left me, that accent. But it's part of also my identity, I guess I shouldn't shy away from it. But anyway, and I thought, actually, let's look at what, we have in common, and let's, look at language, for example, because that's always, I feel like today my level in French and English languages are sort of the same. I do spelling mistakes in both, and I've been living 17 years in the UK. Which I guess is a long time, but I've also had, the people I've met there have been a European family, and so I've been hanging out with a lot of Italian, Portuguese, Brazilian, even Korean people, and really international crowd, and Luckily, I've also met English people.
Myself included. Well, we actually haven't met yet.
It's true. I mean, not in the
not in the flesh.
We've met online. Actually, that sounds a little bit like we've been on a dating app or something.
Well, Sarah.
It's an online app to meet friends.
Yeah.
Friends.
Well, yeah.
I'm looking for English friends to improve my accent. But I think, again, for me, it was this sort of, out of something that I find really terrible and divisive, and sort of, bringing precarity actually to a lot of people, and also just meaning that a whole part of the family that I had met in the UK started moving out after the referendum.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a little bit transformative, because in those moments, I obviously have a lot of pain and, a tad of maybe even depression, but I don't know, somehow the pain kind of, leads on to creative thinking and projects. And weirdly, it's like a heartbreak. I sort of tend to create, to make new things when I have a heartbreak. Luckily, it doesn't happen too often. But,
good.
And I think Brexit was a bit of a heartbreak for me. And so I'm working on a couple of language books that I'm hoping to self-publish or either release with a publisher, and they're really, hopefully, I think they're joyful and they're accessible, and they're not just about graphic design or arts or concrete poetry. They're also about who I am and how I perceive language, and really my love of words. And so I think again, I'm hoping that's what I can do in 2021, is really, keep trying to be positive and sort of, I don't want to pretend I'm positive all the time, because it's not true. But I feel like whenever I feel down, it's really looking at what is positive in your life. And I also had this other thing during lockdown where I would go out, depending on how much time we were allowed outside, and I would take a picture and I would say, okay, this is my joyful moment or encounter or observation of the day. And I would exchange that with different people who would exchange in turn their joyful encounter. So at one point there were these really funny sharks in Regent's Canal in London. And it was so random as a sculpture. And it's by a collective called Antipavilion. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And I just thought, it's kind of these moments where you go outside and you just see, you find a note on the street, like a sort of someone's left a note fall out of their pocket, or you find this sort of the bark of a tree which looks beautiful. I don't know, it's these little things. And I've had this other thing that's kept me going is I don't know why I really became obsessed with word plates.
Word plates?
I mean, sorry, number plates.
Number
from
plates.
Cars.
Oh, okay.
And in the UK they have 3 letters. And I started spotting words in those number plates from the cars. And so it means that on every walk I went for, I would spot a word. So, some people had, the word tea on their number plates. And I just thought it was really funny. And then I thought, actually, this is really poetic. And so I started collecting these words and making sort of sentences with them, with just the 3 words, and then making books from them. And I think for me that those are all the little things also that keep me together, is, finding joy in the most, the smallest thing. I mean, obviously not like anything in the street, but
yeah, I mean, it sounds like 2020 has actually been really good for you. You've learned, you've taken a lot out of it. You've learned a lot of lessons. You've probably were grateful for everything in your life before, but maybe it's shone more of a light on the things to be grateful for, and the positive mindset and kind of that adjustment, isn't it? In sort of really saying to yourself, okay, so the future is out of my control, which it probably always was anyway. It's just that with a pandemic, it makes you realize that actually nothing is certain in life. And sort of saying, okay, that's really sad and it's an awful time that we're going through, but how can I turn this around and be appreciative of things that are going on? So that's really great. And also the other thing that I heard you say then was that you've realized that other people's expectations are theirs alone. And so you can let go of those because they're nothing to do with you. You said that people had expectations of this little side project that you did, but actually you're right. People don't realize how much work goes on behind the scenes to put something together until I suppose they do it themselves. It's tough though, isn't it? Because we're human and we want to be liked and we want to be loved and we want to be accepted. And when that doesn't happen, or if we feel it's not happening enough, it can be quite disconcerting. So to go through that, lesson of actually what other people do and what they think and what they say is no reflection of me. That is just so liberating. I mean, it's taken me 42 years to get there. I always say this in every podcast. It's taken me this bloody long to get to this point where I've kind of had this aha moment and gone, actually, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, as long as I'm treading lightly in the world and doing my best that I can, because everybody's best is different, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then really, what am I worried about? Why am I getting anxious? And what do I owe anyone? I don't owe anybody anything. The very fact that I am spending a lot of time doing something I love and supporting others, that's enough. I mean, it's more than enough.
I mean, definitely, it's more than what I have ever done. So, but
I am far superior to you, darling.
Absolutely.
But you know what I mean? It's that kind of wow. Okay, I get it now. I get it. I don't. Why am I doing all this? What is driving me? And it's changing the driving. It's changing the fuel, isn't it? That pushes us forward, rather than kind of trying to prove ourselves or please others. You kind of taken a step back in the last 12 months and gone, actually, what do I want and what makes me happy? And
exactly.
It's easy to lose that. It's easy to forget that that's what we started out doing when we went to university. In your case, you went to the University of the Arts, London, studying type and graphic art. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then now you've come back sort of full circle, I guess. You're sort of walking down the street in London and spotting type in everything. And And finding that actually your passion is in art. You said to me before we started this interview, I'd really love to be known as an artist and a graphic designer, and that's wonderful.
In the last 15 years I've been working, it's really also been about how do I define myself? And I think, when you do talks, I've done a lot of talks as well during lockdown last year. I did about, I think, 10 online talks between March and June. And I have a couple of online talks still lined up for this year. And each time you have to present yourselves. And you actually realize in those moments as well that you can tell what you want, you can be, it's up to ourselves to define ourselves. And I think I had also this moment about 8 years ago when I was doing a printmaking residency in East London, and I was only with other artists in the studio. There weren't any graphic designers, and immediately I was defined as an artist. They would see the work I was doing, and it was pretty much pop art, screen prints, and they were saying, "Oh, we'd like to welcome a new artist amongst us." And I thought, actually, this is interesting because depending on the community you're spending time with, some will say you're a graphic designer, some will say you're an artist, and that made me realize that I can actually be both. And I'd like to continue being both. I'd like to keep running my studio practice, taking on graphic commissions, but I'd also like to dedicate, more time and invest more in realizing my art projects, and also just getting my hands dirty really and away from the computer. But I think again, when we define what a practice is, I think again it was realizing that a graphic design practice or studio doesn't have to be, the image you've seen repeatedly of, 10 people in a, pristine, white, very designed office, doing quite, beautiful or corporate branding. And it can be many other things. And I think, again, when I do talks in universities, I think for me, it's been really important to say yes to those talks, to show that there are different practices, and my practice is very different from the one of a bigger studio, that I actually, when I graduated, I only knew those studios. I didn't know other smaller practices and I think, so I think that's been really like a learning curve for me. And it's also embracing the fact that I am different and that what I do is very different. And I think it's been important to realize that as well through those encounters, and just be like, actually, my practice is made of many things, and it's working in areas such as the arts and culture, and it's working with artists and galleries. Not to say that I don't want to work in other areas. I've been thinking about that as well in 2020. Yeah. And I'd love, to try working with, different brands, and, I'd love to also not just make screen prints on paper. I'd love to, make things for the home, because I think obviously the home has become, one of the central parts of our lives now. Yeah. And so, just I think being able to define yourself and not letting people define you.
It's such a release, isn't it? It's powerful.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's just a warm feeling when you realize that actually we have probably spent, and I say we, I say you and I, not the collective everyone, but, probably spent a lot of our careers trying to make ourselves fit into something that doesn't really suit us. And when you sort of have that moment when you're like, well, actually, I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to sort of be defined by others. I think it was Sophia Mono that got me onto that. She just sort of made this great analogy where she said, something along the lines of, I realized that, there wasn't a space for me at the table. So I decided to collect my own wood and build my own table, and then I would invite everybody to join me on it. And I just thought that was a great way of highlighting the way things were or still are in many cases. And not to be negative about the creative industries or any industry for that matter. But, I don't think I realised until in the last sort of couple of years, probably last year, that actually it's a very male environment.
Yeah.
And I think it was only last year that I started reaching out to other women and men in the creative industries and confiding in them. And I'm not saying you're not special, Sarah. There were a few other people last year that I kind of formed really interesting friendships with. I'd completely forgotten in all the hard work that it's important to have friends, not just obviously in the rest of our lives, but friends who understand, who are in the same sort of world as you, because it can get very lonely. I mean, I got very close with, and I'll mention them. I'm not sure if they listen to this podcast. I'd cringe if they did, but Peggy, Danny and Lauren last year and this year, I mean, we became so close and got each other through what was, obviously a tough time. And we had many laughs as well. And I just sort of thought, gosh, why didn't I have more of that before? Why did we get to the point where we thought that we could cope on our own? Yeah,
it's true. I mean, I think that's a really important point as well, because on the one hand, I've always enjoyed, being a small practice and, I've had other people work with me at times, but at the moment it's just me. And, but I have realized that sometimes it has been a very, very solitary journey. And I mean, within my practice, and that you need a really supportive, group of people that can help you also on the outside, and that it's, you never make it solely on your own, I feel.
No.
And I realized also that, I had, I think 2020 was also really transformative for me because, I could not stand any toxic energy during the pandemic. and I really sort of cut short anything that sort of I felt was, hurtful to me or not driving me and not helping me grow. And I thought, that's what I want to do when people approach me, is I want to be kind and generous and help them grow. And I would expect the same from them. And I just realized that anyone who was actually making me feel, small for the wrong reasons did not have a space in my life. And I suddenly became really radical with that last year, because I think given everyone was so fragile, including myself, it was really important just to be very protective of oneself. But I think in terms of this idea of, being solitary, on the one hand, I really like it. And on the other hand, I always thought, what would it have been like to work in a large studio and have lots of colleagues and sort of have all these, sort of brainstorms. And I have worked with other designers, but it's never been like a really big group. So I've always been curious about that. But again, since I've been running my own practice in the last 5 years, I've just realized that actually I really like that it's small, and I really like, and so it doesn't have to be within my practice, but it has to be within my community, that I have people I can reach out to, I can talk to freely. And I think I'm sort of rebuilding that network of people and also those, friends that I can feel in a safe space.
Yeah, I totally, I think you and I have had a very similar experience, because I've been doing exactly the same. I think I stopped comparing myself to others and to how, and living up to other people's expectations. I think I finally got the kind of get go in me to say, okay, come on, give yourself a break, Katie. I mean, it takes guts to launch a studio. And I'm talking about you, not me here. It takes guts to launch your own studio and to go out there and stand in front of younger people, younger aspiring designers, which I know you do a lot. You've been a lecturer at the London College of Communication, and you've worked at CAS, and you share your wisdom. I know you've been on It's Nice That's Nicer Tuesdays as well. And to get up there as a sole studio in front of, large swathes of tomorrow's industry and large swathes of the existing community, that is very, I shouldn't have to say that it's brave, but it is very brave, because not everybody has the guts to get up there and share their kind of experience.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because half the time even with the podcast, I was slightly nervous.
I know, me too. But this is the thing.
I don't think I was fun company in the last 24 hours before the podcast. I already feel a little bit less stressed now, but I think again, it's thinking about representation. And I think when you are given the platform to speak, I think it's important that we say yes. And obviously I'm saying that, it's practice what you preach is really important. And I have said no in the past to things because I just really freak out, and I am very anxious and self-conscious of what other people will think. And once I'm in it, it's better, but it's the before moment and all the thoughts that go with it. And I am nervous. And so there are a couple of, big talks that I've been turning down. And obviously that, luckily they have come back to me to ask me to speak again. And I forced myself to say yes, but and even It's Nice That Nicer Tuesday, I love doing it because I met Craig Oldham that you also interviewed.
Yeah, Craig's
that has
great.
Become a friend. Yeah. And I met also David Pearson at that talk, and we were all talking together on that evening.
Lovely.
And I, and one thing is to actually also realize that, doing these talks, you forge sometimes lifetime, friendships or connections.
You really do. And also you get the chance to stand up in front of lots of people and talk about your work. And that stays in people's minds. It really does. They remember you, and it's good for your sort of marketing. It's good for your reputation, and it helps you build skills as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I think one thing also that I realized with all these talks is that actually they make you reflect as well, again, on where you are at and what you want to say about your practice. And again, it's a friend also said to me, you should never turn down anything. and I was a bit like, oh gosh, really? and I heard also a couple of events organizers say we have so many women saying no to doing talks, and on the one hand, we understand that they don't always have time, but there's also a massive part of shyness and anxiety. And I also feel that, it's asking why there's this shyness and anxiety, and sort of trying to work on that. And I've been working hard to be less anxious before I do talks. And I think also being less anxious about, stop thinking about what people will think, but just think, this is my practice. This is how it is. It is different to yours and yours and yours. And this is what I do, and not have this idea that it has to fit within that crowd specifically that is watching it. It's really, but it is still daunting. And I think I'm always self-conscious about my work. Even when I do, an online post, and I'm sort of in the next hour that follows, I'm sort of excruciated, and I'm like, it's not good enough. It's not this. It's not that. It's hard.
It is hard, but that is the kind of wind in our sails, isn't it? If we weren't worried about these things, then we wouldn't drive ourselves to improve. We wouldn't push ourselves forward. It's a great kind of thing to have. That fear. Fear is healthy, I think, when we're creative.
Yeah.
We sort of, I suppose we've been talking about the fact that we've realized that having this bravado, pretending that we're stronger than we are, ignoring the fact that we're human, because there is a bravado-ness, and if there's such a word, in the creative community where people are like, no, everything's fine, and I'm very successful, and have many
I'm a tough cookie.
leather-bound books, and have many cigars. And I'm very successful. And there's a kind of fear of showing vulnerability and sharing mistakes. But actually, I think there was already a growing appetite for more realism before the pandemic. And I think the pandemic only sped that up. People they kind of respond more to the real stories, to the real human behind the logo. And I think you're right. If you get up and give a talk, then it's remembering that actually you're just talking about yourself and your work, and there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also as designers, we're not, and even artists, we're not performers, we're not actors.
No.
And I think obviously some are really, really good at these, at these talks and actually really give a performance. But again, I don't have to give a performance when I go up on a stage or when I'm speaking. And I think just being myself has been, the best learning curve.
Definitely.
It's like learning to be yourself.
And it's hard, isn't it? To learn to be yourself, to relax into yourself. That's really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, this is a bit personal. Like I was hesitant to mention it, but I think it was in 2019 or was it a bit before, but I gave a talk at the House of St. Barnabas, actually with Craig Oldham as well. It was quite a small, intimate talk, like sort of salon discussion. And I actually cried when I gave the talk, and I got really passionate and emotional, and obviously I was really embarrassed after. And I've had people who attended the talk actually that are still in touch with me since. And one has asked me to do an interview with her. And she actually explained to me, and she said, like, you really, like, the fact you were so honest and that you let your emotions out was really revealing for me at that time, and was, a sort of breakthrough for her.
That's fantastic.
And I thought that's amazing, because I think again, it's, it's kind of this veil that we have of like, you must be very stoic. And do you say stoic in English?
Yeah.
You must be, always strong and put on a strong face and be very contained. And actually, when she told me this, I thought actually it takes one person to make you realize that you don't have to, and that you can be really emotional. And I think my work is, emotional, passionate, instinctive, driven, and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
And why not? Like what I feel we're, even with clients, like I think the clients I've had the best relationship with have been the clients I've gone through, many phases. Like we've had great collaborations, we had really tough moments, we've had tough conversations, we've literally, even sometimes there's been a bit of, I would say, well, I don't know, raising the voice. and sometimes you're mortified because you're like, oh my God, we should have not had this chat. It's the end of the relationship. And actually, when you get beyond that, when you're allowed to show your emotions, and when you can go beyond, and when you accept both the client's emotions, but also they accept yours. That's what happened in life relationships.
Yeah. And
that's when you build the strongest, longest relationships, and when you feel you can talk about everything as well, and I think that's so important. It's again building that safe space with the client, and just being like, hey, this is how I create, this is how I would like us to communicate, and this is okay, and is it okay with you?
It's spot on. Business is about people after all, and again, it's that human touch.
And again, we're not making, bank transactions. So we can be emotional about what we're making.
We can.
Most of the time I'm working on emotional projects. It's, I'm working on, with artists that have made very emotional, social, community projects. And so we're not just like computers. And I think that's really important to embrace that and just be like, let's go through these emotions together. I mean, I don't want to scare people off, like potential clients that would want to work with me after listening to this podcast.
She's a nightmare.
I'm not like an emotional bundle and sort of unmanageable. I'm really like
you're real. You're passionate about your work, and that is very attractive. And like you said that this lovely lady who watched your talk and saw you well up. I mean, I suppose when you've got a reputation as big as yours, Sarah, people might tend to make assumptions about who you are as a person. So I think it's quite a common thing. We all kind of assume if somebody's kind of a bit famous, that they're going to be a bit of an idiot. They're going to have an ego. Well, we all have an ego, but you know what I mean. They're going to have a big ego and they're going to be pompous. So I did this podcast with Loz Ives last year, and we both had a nice chat before we hit record. And we just sort of said how funny it was that we all just assumed that everybody else in the industry were just idiots, you know, big dickheads. And then when we actually met these people that we'd heard of for a long time, we actually realised they're just lovely and they're just normal. And I suppose your reputation being as it is, you know, people might make the same assumption. They might think, oh, I bet she's got a big ego. But then when they go and see you talk and see that you're just, oh, wow, just a normal person with a heart, you know, just trying to make a living. It's easy for any of us to forget, I think, that actually we're all just human and we all need to cut ourselves and others a break. And I think the world would be a much nicer place.
Yeah, and I think, again, we need to give ourselves time, like give each other time to get to know each other. I think there's a lot of very quick judgments made. And I think, you know, I've discovered amazing people again in the industry, and just, you know, and where actually I was really surprised by actually who they really were, as opposed to what they would let out. And I think, actually, everyone in this industry is amazing, but it's sometimes we just have this shield, which I think gives the wrong impression.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll remember that as well for myself, and just, you know, just keep on being a human being before being a designer.
I love that. And that's a really nice way to end this fantastic chat with you, Sarah. I could talk to you all day, as you know.
Thanks so much for having me. It was so nice to speak.
Thanks so much for listening. This is the Creative Boom podcast, and I am your host, Katie Cowan. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsor who's made this possible, Shillington, which is the original graphic design bootcamp. Find out more at shillingtoneducation.com. If you'd like to subscribe and listen to more of these podcasts, you can go to creativeboom.com/podcast. And if you'd like to keep up with all the other content that's coming out of Creative Boom, go to creativeboom.com/newsletter, where you will subscribe and receive our lovely email straight to your inbox every Tuesday. Until next time.